Hey everybody, it's GombletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we're going to be playing another Innistrad double feature draft, the format with Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow mixed together into one pack. 2 rares per pack, but other than that, let's just hop into this draft to see if we can't draft something other than blue today. So our first rare is not very good, Dire Strain Rampage, very much a constructed kind of card, a very sideboard sort of card, hits very specific card types. But our second rare, Torrent's Fist of the Angels, does look pretty good to me. 1 a green and a white for a 2/2 with training, and whenever you cast a creature spell, you're spitting out another 1/1 token with training. So if you're a creature-heavy deck, you can get a lot of creatures out with this card. It is going to be a gold card. It's tying us into green and white, so if we get cut off of either of those colors, then we'll have to cut it. But our uncommons don't seem particularly sweet to me. It's at least the monocolored ones, so I'm pretty cool to just take the powerful gold rare. Best cards out otherwise in this pack are probably just the white commons. Kindly Ancestor and Traveling Minister are both cards that I tend to enjoy. So here we are now in pack 2. We do see Ludovic Necrogenius. I do think this card's also pretty sweet. A 2-mana 2/3 when it enters the battlefield or attacks, you mill a card. And then later in the game, for 4 mana plus X, you get to transform this into a copy of one of those cards with +1/+1 counters on it equal to the number of creature cards exiled with it. So you just make it a 4/4, 5/5, 6/6 version of whatever you're exiling for 5, 6, or 7 mana respectively. Pretty excellent deal there. I'm pretty happy to just take Ludovic here. Whoever had this pack took the other rare, so apparently the other rare was better than Ludovic, but I'll just slam down a Ludovic here and see. This is where we get the problem of taking gold cards, pick 1, pack 1, and pack 1, pick 2 as well. We definitely can't play both of these in the same deck. We're going to have to see where the draft takes us, but at least this way, no matter what seems to be opened, what great cards get passed to us, we can play some kind of great rare. And here, I'm not loving the blue or black cards. My favorite blue card here would probably be Dissipate, just a counterspell that can exile, since this can deal with big threats of your opponents or counter their removal spell on your own, Ludovic or whatever. But I think the card's just okay. I like it better than Fear of Death and Gift of Fangs, but I don't like it a ton. I do, however, really like Ambitious Farmhand. 2 mana for a 1/1, pull a Plains out of your deck, put it into your hand, and you can flip it with Coven later to be a 3/3 lifelinker. So just a really good deal. 2 mana for a 1/1 and you draw a card guaranteed. That card is just a Plains, but that is going to be relevant at the time that you're casting a 2-drop, unless you're just immediately flooded. So I do like Ambitious Farmhand quite a bit. I'm just going to scoop that up here. Potentially go down the Torrens route. Although now the best card in this pack is probably Organ Hoarder. This card's just insane. 4 mana for a 3/2. When it enters the battlefield, grab the best card out of your top 3, put it in hand. You mill the other cards. So this might be a draft where we get max punished for starting with gold cards. Something that I tend to say almost every draft. A reason not to start with gold cards is sometimes the best cards that get passed to you are just not in that exact 2-color pair. And then you end up just dropping both your sweet rares and playing like blue-white or something like that. Could happen to us here. We'll find out. If we really don't want to do that, we could take Gavney Silversmith, which is a pretty good card. But other than that, the best cards are definitely these 2 blue ones. The uncommon's pretty great too, but I think I like Organ Hoarder better. It's very close. So now we have Blade Stitched Scab. That's somewhat of a sign here. Pick 5 for blue-black zombies. Organ Hoarder's a zombie. Ludovic gives us some self-mill, but I don't think... Well... Ludovic's Hubris is a zombie, so once we flip that, yeah, that could be interesting here. Definitely one of the best cards in the pack. Other than that, there's Falconwrath Celebrants, a really nice top end for red decks. Give you blood tokens if you're flooding out. And Hobbling Zombie is just a pretty efficient card. Trade off with something and leave behind a zombie token. Thanks to that Death Touch, but I'm just going to go with Blade Stitch Scab. Maybe we do get to go down the blue-black route here. So we have Devious Cover-Up for a solid counterspell, Bladebrand for a decent trick since it draws you the card. Other than that, a very medium training card, the Griff Rider, like a Vampire's Vengeance, but that's very far off of what we're doing. I think I just want to take Devious Cover-Up or Bladebrand here for the Dimir deck, potentially. Cover-Up's a pretty expensive counterspell. I think I'm just going to scoop up Bladebrand. I don't know why, but in terms of all of the counterspells in this format, I've had mountains more success with Syncopate than anything else. And I guess the biggest reason being Syncopate, it's just much less mana restrictive to hold that up, and it does exile on the counter just like Devious Cover-Up does, but you can Syncopate for only 2 mana sometimes. So what do we want here? Just an Exploit card or a blue-white Disturb card? This is far better than the other colors of cards here, even if we're hoping to play blue-black to play our rares. Seeing a Devoted Graphkeeper is pretty great sign for blue-white Disturb as well, and it's definitely the strongest card in that pack. So we're going to be a little all over the place as we enter pack 2 here. Hopefully we'll get a really good signal to really solidify where we want to go here. But this pack's not great. Just like Alchemist Retrieval, kind of. It's like fine, cheap interaction. Mysterious Tome's a really fun card, but it's always been too slow to me. And you can't really control what mode it's on very well, so often it's just going to be on the side you don't want when you really need to tap something down. Wow, both of the premium white commons are still in this pack. I remember when I opened this pack and I took Torrens, I was like, well, second best cards in this pack are just the 2 white commons in my opinion, and not a single person took them, so that's got to be a really good sign for white. So I think we might be trying to go down the blue-white Disturb route, and we want to take Kindly Ancestor for that to work with Devoted Graphkeeper. But Traveling Minister is also great. I just think Kindly Ancestor is going to combo a little bit more in the particular color pair we're attempting to go for, blue-white. It also combos well with cards like Organ Hoarder that mill us a little bit, so we can recast it from the grave. This pack doesn't have a lot. It's an Epicure, like a Cut Purse or something. Just take a Cut Purse, because we could still be a black deck. We do have Fear of Death. This seems like solid removal for blue-white Disturb. You're milling yourself, and if you hit any of your Disturb cards, you can just recast them. Cavity Trapper's fine too. But Fear of Death does seem pretty synergistic with what we're doing. I like having a Ceremonial Knife in basically any deck, just as a nice little one-of for when we start flooding out. And Perish Blade Trainee can be good on the aggressive, but it's really, really bad when you're on the defensive, so for that reason I don't like it. I don't like cards that tend to be pretty narrow unless they're really, really good in their situations where they shine. So now we have Sigarda's Imprisonment, a nice removal spell, or Dual Craft Trainer, which can really close a game out quickly, giving a creature double strike every turn. As long as you have Coven. Both of those cards are exceptional. Nothing great in black here, it looks like. Some pretty good green cards, both Strike, Hook, and Mariner Infestation Expert, but we're really not far into green. It's just Torrens in green here. I think I just want to take one of the white cards again. We do have a Fear of Death and an Alchemist Retrieval. That's about it for removal, though. And neither of those are great removal. At the same time, I don't know. Dual Craft Trainer just always feels like an absolute nuts card when you get that Coven trigger off of it. Ooh, this will be a pretty easy pick for us here. We do see a Mythic Rare on color, Jacob Hawken, Inspector. Not the strongest Mythic Rare in the universe because it is a bit slow, but if you flip this card, it is going to put in a mountain of work. It is 2 mana 0/2, tap it, draw a card, and then exile a card from your hand face down. Later in the game, flip it for 6 mana when you use that ability, and you can start casting one of your exiled cards for free every single turn, which is absolutely absurd. Plus, it draws you an additional card during your upkeep. So Jacob Hawken, absolutely absurd card if you get to flip it. The only other card in this pack I'd be interested in, well, there's 2 of them. Well, 3 of them, actually. If we could wheel Syncopate, that'd be excellent. Gale Drifter would be my second pick. Fear of Death would be my third. Any of those would be solid. Geistlight Snare might not be bad either. Pretty happy to be in blue-white so far. Looks like tons of options here again. Scab Wrangler is a pretty good one, although it works particularly well if you have creature token producers like Decayed Zombie producers. We don't have any of that going for us. Sealclad Spirit is fine in blue-white because we might be able to attack with it now and then. I guess a lot of these white cards aren't that great. Even Bereaved Survivor I'm not a huge fan of, and the blue rare is not super playable. It's another very narrow card. I guess I'm just taking Scab Wrangler here. Ooh, Olena and Olena. Pick 4. That's pretty wild. That is pretty wild, but Drogskull Infantry is going to be the best card to combo with blue-white Disturb here. Nice 2 mana 2/2, trade it off easily and disturb it from the grave later for synergy and for value. Wow, we're going to be loaded on 2-mana creatures here, because Fleeting Spirit's one of the best 2-drops in the whole format, in my opinion. A 2-mana 3/1 that has a built-in way to protect itself by discarding a card from your hand, and keeps itself relevant later in the game by getting the ability to get First Strike. I really like Fleeting Spirit. That being said, we have Farmhand, Infantry, Jacob Hawk, and Scabwrangler, and Graphkeeper. We already have 5 great 2-drops, and we don't have any counterspells yet, and I really like Syncopate. Dissipate's good too, but I think Syncopate's just a little better. I'm going to go with Syncopate over Fleeting Spirit. We just have a lot of great 2-drops already. So now we have Candle Trap, a removal spell I'm not a huge fan of. Although with enough flyers, it's not that bad, because you can get around the downside of leaving a defender on their board. That being said, Morning Patrol should be just solid here. 3-mana 2/3 Vigilance with a nice Disturb ability for later. Pretty much exactly what we're doing in this color pair. I'll scoop up a Morning Patrol here. Alright, perfect. We are rewarded with our gold Signpost uncommon, pick 7 here. Blue-white Disturb definitely open. The nice Brine Comer. 3 mana for a 1/1 and a 1/1 flyer is already a fine deal. And then if you enchant it with any of your Disturb effects, you're spitting out more 1/1 flyers, and you can bring this back from the graveyard and make more 1/1 flyers at that time as well. Super nice. I do like Stitched Assistant in Disturb decks, because then you can like sack your Disturb creature and recast it, but Chill of the Grave is a good card too. But I think I'm going Stitched Assistant. Should probably check our creature count here. 11 creatures, 4 non-creatures. Because we danced between so many strategies at the start, we are going to need to fill out the deck hardcore these last couple packs. Could be a little scary. So another Fear of Death or a Geistlight Snare. I think the snare's fine. But we also do have a Syncopate now. I don't know, I'll take the Geistlight Snare. We do wheel the medium white creatures here. Now we do have a good stack of 3s as well. I'll just take a random dorky 5-drop. Although it's not super great, yet again. I'm going to try to sort all my non-creatures into their own pile here so we can see how our creature curve's looking. And it's looking pretty good. Yeah, this looks like a deck. Ooh, and we get to show off the one Dracula card style that we got. If you haven't heard, the Dracula styles that you get out of this event, they only work the first time. And then you just don't get any more Dracula card styles, so they are going to patch them in. When Kamigawa Neon Dynasty drops, we will be getting 2 Dracula card styles for each one of these events that we entered. But this is the one that I got, the Thalia one, so that's got to be a sign I'm supposed to take her, right? Actually, I don't think I will, because we have 6 2-drops, not a lot of removal, and Cigarro's Imprisonment's like the best removal in the format, so unfortunately, if this was a sign we're supposed to jam Thalia, I am going to just completely disregard that and take the good removal spell. Ooh, now we got a removal spell and a creature all in one at Mythic Rare. Savior of Allenbach, 3 mana for a 1/2 training. Whenever it trains, exile up to 1 other target creature from the battlefield or a creature card from a graveyard. When it leaves the battlefield, put the exiled cards onto the battlefield under their owner's control. So it's similar to a Banishing Light, where whenever it trains, you get to exile something until it dies. You can use this in multiple ways. You can exile your opponent's creatures to just temporarily remove them and keep your creatures tacking in, or you can just exile your own stuff from your graveyard so that whenever the savior does die, you just spit a bunch of stuff onto the board. Either way to use this card is really sweet. We'd love to wheel Valorous Stance or Gutter Skulker, but I don't know how likely that is because both those cards are also pretty great. Ooh, Patrician Geist, really fun to combo with the blue-white Disturb deck. It's going to buff all our spirits and make our Disturb costs cost 1 less. Super big fan of that, but there's also Lantern Bearer, which is one of the best Disturb cards because it's so cheap to get it out on the board and pretty cheap to disturb it as well. Yeah, Lantern Bearer is sweet, but Patrician Geist seems awesome here too. We do have 4 spirits. We have 5 cards we can cast from the graveyard. Oh, maybe I'm supposed to take Lantern Bearer actually, but I just can't. I can't pass up the sweet rare. All right, this is a pretty easy Lunarch Veteran to me. This is a great Disturb card. as well. Just really cheap to get it out, really cheap to disturb it, so it combos well with that kind of stuff. And the other cards in our colors aren't the greatest. Stitch Assistant would be redundant. It's between Lunarch Veteran and Gavany Trapper to me. I do think one Gavany Trapper would be good, but I'm just going to really ham it up with a bunch of Disturb decks, or Disturb cards, I should say. I actually do like Inspired Idea a lot. We don't have any card draw in here yet. Maybe I'm too high on the card, but I like just 3 mana, draw 3. Sure, your maximum hand size is reduced by 3 for the rest of the game, but you don't tend to cast your draw spells until you're out of things to do anyway, because you want to keep committing to the board until then, and then cast your draw spell. So I really like using this on an empty hand on like turn 5, turn 6, and then we just have a couple mana up, so we can drop a cheap card that we drew into pretty easily. So it's between that and Distracting Geist, but I do actually like Inspired Idea, so I'm going to pick that up here. And we do get a Lantern Bearer to us here nice and late. That's excellent. Really easy addition to the deck. Super, super happy with that one. I'm probably not playing any of these cards. They're all very medium. And Skywarp Scab is very bad in our deck, because we want all our creatures in our grave. Just take some random medium card, throw it in the sideboard. Ooh, Shipwreck Sifters. Great for Blue-White Disturb, but Scattered Thoughts is a great instant speed draw spell. Both these are awesome. 18 creatures, 9 non-creatures. But I could cut a like Vampire Slayer here. Beguiler, maybe even Monstrosity. I'm actually going to go for the Shipwreck Sifters here over the Scattered Thoughts. I just think it's super sweet when you draw a card, then discard a Disturb card with it. That being said, when it really went off, the games where it was super, super good would be the games in the Midnight Hunt format where you could actually pick up duplicates pretty easily. And then because you had duplicates, you could just play like 3 Shipwreck Sifters in a row, and then they're all like 4/5s. That's where it really goes off. It's just a solid deal here. Okay, bunch of nonsense we're probably not playing. We do will that Gavany Trapper. We might play around with that. We do get to make a lot of cuts here, even though we didn't really solidify ourselves into this strategy till pack 2. So that's pretty nice. One thing that isn't super nice is we are blue again, so my apologies that we're just going to keep playing blue decks. But if we keep getting past sweet blue cards, I'm not going to go after strategies that are particularly cut or anything. I'm going to go after what's looking open to me, and a nice late Devoted Graftkeeper kind of showed me the way this draft. And a lot of late white cards in the early packs. So I almost think we might not need Ceremonial Knife, because we have just late game value from Disturb cards. Organ Hoarder drawing a card, Inspired Idea drawing multiple. Just moving everything into the kind of maybe pile. We have 18 creatures here. Do we even have anything to protect with Cradle of Safety? We do have a Savior of Ollenbach, and a Patrician Geist. And it's good with Brine Comer. Sure, we'll keep Cradle of Safety. Maybe no Blessed Defiance then. In terms of our creatures, what's our weakest stuff? Stitch Assistant might be our weakest 3-drop, but I really like it to combo with the 1-mana Disturb cards we have in the deck. That is literally like the only creature I could even consider cutting outside of Gavany Trapper. I feel like the rest of our creature base is just excellent. The card quality in this deck is through the roof. I guess Scab Wrangler's a little weird here, no token production. Well, Brine Comer. Brine Comer actually does work well with the Scab Wrangler. I mean, I could see cutting Gavany Trapper and then 4 of these non-creatures. I think that's what I'm going to do here. We could even cut a land. I mean, this deck is low curve. Low curve, average 2.3. But we're about to cut a bunch of 1-drops, so that's going to raise that up here. At the same time, we are a Disturb deck, which means that we're always going to have things to do with our mana. Like, sure, we drop all these cards pretty cheap. And normally, if all these cards were just what they were at face value, then we'd be really cool with being a 16-land deck. But we also have to consider what we're doing later in the game, which is potentially like, by the time we're playing our 4-drops and stuff, we could have like a 4-drop and then also like a 2-mana Disturb ability and a 3-mana Disturb ability and some 4-mana Disturb ability sitting there. So we actually do have a lot of ways to use mana when we start flooding out if we've traded with creatures early game. Plus Jacob Hawken is basically a 6-drop because he doesn't do a lot until we flip him. And he's good until we flip him, but he's great when we do. So with all these Disturb effects running around to soak up our mana, plus Jacob Hawken being basically a 6-drop, our curve is higher than it looks, higher than Arena's giving it credit for. So I might keep a 17 here. It'd still be cool with cutting down to 16, but it's definitely not a super clear land cut to me here. I'm going to cut the snare and the knife. 1 retrieval. Cut Defiance. And the question is, one of these 1-drops or a land? Still average 2.4 because we're keeping these 2 1-drops in here if we go that way. Syncopate also is a big mana requirement potentially. I'm going to go ahead and cut the land here. We'll see how much that's see how much that punishes us here. But I think this is going to be the deck. Alright, here we are with the final deck. We did end up cutting a land for the 16 land version. We've got just a lot of great cheap Disturb cards. Lantern Bearer, Lunarch Veteran, Drogskull Infantry, Devoted Graphkeeper. Going to be tapping things down as we disturb things out of our graveyard. A really aggressive blue-white curve here as well. Looks like a pretty sweet deck generally. In terms of bomb power, we have Jacob Hawken for Hawken's Insight to just cast a bunch of stuff for free, keep us drawing cards. And we have Dual Craft Trainer as a way to close out the game really quickly after an aggressive start. Savior of Ollenbach could be pretty bomby if we're attacking with it with one of our 3 power creatures, like our Stitched Assistant, or anything that we slap an aura onto. Then we're training this up, exiling stuff from our opponent's board or from our own graveyard, whether or not we're planning on the Savior dying. Yeah, looks like a pretty sweet deck. Lots of great card advantage. Oregon Hoarder draws us a card and potentially spits a Disturb card into our graveyard as well. Inspired Idea is just a 3-mana draw 3 late game when we run out of things to do. And a little bit of nice interaction. Syncopate for the counterspell, Sigarda's Imprisonment for the removal, and then the weaker Fear of Death is another removal, but this one might, again, draw us a Disturb card for our graveyard. And then we just have Alchemist Retrieval, because it's going to be now nice to slow down our opponent's stuff by bouncing their big, like, 6-drop and just making them replay it the next turn, or alternatively, for only 1 mana, we can return a disturbed creature to our hand so that we can recast it as the front side of that card and just get a ton of value that way. So that's one of the cool things you can do with Alchemist Retrieval. This deck is capable of. We could also just use this to save a creature from a removal spell. And then there's Cradle of Safety, which is a nice way to save a creature from a removal spell, as well as a pretty nice combo with the Brine Comber. Since it is an aura spell, we will spend another 1/1 if we target the Brine Comber, or whatever's enchanted with Brine-bound Gift with the Cradle of Safety. So that's the deck. Let's go ahead and see how it does. Alright, here we are in the play with a super keepable hand. We've got a 1-drop and a 2-drop. On turn 3, if nothing else, we can use Gavany Trapper's ability to tap down whatever they play so that our infantry gets in, but it looks like we've even drawn a 3-drop, which is excellent. Now we have the perfect curve 1, 2, 3, 4. That being said, our 1-drop doesn't really have an impact until they play some creatures and we want to tap something down. Going to attack first, so if they have Olivia's Midnight Ambush for -2/-2 removal, they might want to use it on infantry rather than Geist if they don't know that Geist is coming. Could be an argument for attacking or playing Geist first there for just the extra 1 damage. But just played it safe around like a removal spell there. So, am I cool trading with Felstinger? I don't think I am because I have Gavany Trapper down, so I think I'd rather just hit them for 2 this turn. And then casting Gutter Skulker. And because now I have nothing to do next turn, I can just start tapping down the Felstinger with Gavany Trapper. And then getting in with everybody on the ground, as well as in the sky. Oh yeah, we definitely have nothing else to do here, so let's go ahead and tap down that Felstinger. Get in for a nice attack here. They're down to 7. Looks like they're stuck off their second color, and that could just be game. There is the concession, a really fast victory from us there. Just a really aggressive hand to punish our opponent for their mana issues there. Here we are again with another sweet, aggressive hand. The issue here is no blue mana. We know we play Lunarch Veteran on 1, but if we don't hit that blue source basically immediately, we're just stone cold doing nothing from that point on. So I really feel like this should be a mulligan. We have, what, 8 islands in the deck? Because we have 16 lands, we have an even split. With 8 islands in the deck, that's about 1 in 5, but we've digged 7 cards deep already. I feel like this is a mulligan. Alright, this is definitely better, and we still have Inspired Idea, which is perfect, because that means that we can just refuel and basically pretend we didn't even mulligan. here's a Gavany Trapper, turn 1 from our opponent. We even have Ambitious Farmhand now, so we can draw more cards. Draw another Plains here. Yeah, our hand here is certainly making up for the mulligan. So we're starting with Graphkeeper, so we might be able to attack in. And we could, it's a human peasant, it's not a spirit, we could attack in, but then if we do any disturb combos later, we won't be tapping things down. I think I'm okay with that. Trade into the wolf, and then we can just cast a 3/1 flyer here. Just cash it in for some immediate value. Alright, cool. So our opponent does not want to take that trade because they know we'll just get it back as a 3/1 flyer. So now we'll go ahead and play the Patrician Geist, I think. Next turn we can do Ambitious Farmhand and Shipwreck Sifters, depending on what we draw. If we have something that's good to discard to the draw discard, we'll definitely do that. But if we have like the biggest bomb in our whole deck in hand, then maybe not. Augur of Autumn from our opponent. Excellent card there. Now we have a land in hand, so we can easily go for the Shipwreck Sifters play and just discard the plains that we draw off of farmhand. So our opponent can play lands off the top of their library now, and if they get Coven, they can also cast creatures off the top of their library. So our opponent, if they get Coven, is going to have a ton of card draw going on as well. Even if they don't, just being able to dig through any lands there is going to be nice. See what we draw off the Sifters. Lunarch Veteran to toss in the grave so the Sifters gets a counter, plus we can cast that to tap something down and we have another flyer on the board. I think that is better than discarding the plains here. It also gives us Coven because the Sifters is now a 3-power creature instead of a 2-power creature, so we can flip our farmhand into a 3/3 lifelinker. So there's a Candlegrove Witch from our opponent. As you can see, they do not have Coven though. If they had Coven, the Witch's ability would trigger. So now we have a really easy indicator of when they do have Coven, so I don't have to do all that, that little math that I always mess up. So what do we want to tap down here? Because we're definitely tapping down something. I think we tap down the Augur of Autumn. They could double block Shipwreck Sifters to kill it with Sporeback Wolf and Candlegrove Witch. I think I'm actually going to tap down their weakest creature, the Sporeback Wolf here. And then I'm just not going to attack with the Graphkeeper, but I will attack with Sifters and Ambitious Farmhand, and the only way they kill either of those is if they block with Augur of Autumn, and then we get to kill the Augur of Autumn. I forgot about the cost reduction. Oops. Doesn't matter, this extra 1 mana isn't gonna amount to anything here, so I'm just gonna move on. Just gonna move on with my life and accept defeat here. Alright, so they're gonna tap down this spirit. We'll attack with the 2 3-power creatures. They can double block 1 to kill it, but then we get to kill Augur of Autumn and keep them off of their card draw engine. Okay. They're gonna double block the Shipwreck Sifters, so we don't even have to flip the farmhand right now. Although it's still probably worth it to just do it right now for the extra damage and life gain. So I think I will. And we'll just Inspired Idea next turn. We'll have 3 mana up after we cast Inspired Idea, so we'll still probably have enough to cast something. Our deck has a pretty low curve. So there's a Bird Admirer. That is going to be a great blocker. They do have Coven now. They are going to attack with Candlegrove Witch. We could trade with Phantom, but I'd rather just hit them back. That being said, with Bird Admirer, it's going to be harder to hit them back than general. I do get to attack with 2 of my flyers. They can only block 1 of them. They could double block Cathar with Bird Admirer and Sporeback Wolf. Do I want an Inspired Idea before combat here, or do I want to play Gutter Skulker? I feel like I want a Gutter Skulker because it's going to be a 4-power creature they can't block at all, but I guess they just keep tapping it with Gavany Trapper, so Gutter Skulker isn't actually that insane when they have a Gavany Trapper on board. Yeah, I'm going to Inspired Idea pre-combat then instead. Leaving double white up because we do have a double white card in this deck. The Savior of Wallenbrock. Alright, well, that's a little awkward. We'll just cast a Morning Patrol then. Not the worst draws in the world, but not great. So we tap down the Geist. Attack with these. They get to kill Season Cathar if they double block, but then we kill Wolf. It's going to be worth it to get things out of the way and hit them for 2. It is a trade down. Could be worth the trade down. Because, like, if I don't attack with this, then we're not getting any damage in because they just block with Bird Admirer. Maybe we do just play it slow here. Because we're out of card draw and we only got 2 more cards in hand here. So if they just play, like, another good blocker here, we might be really locked out if I take some trades down here. Oh, dear. Pack Song Pup's a really big deal. Because they're in a board state where they have enough creatures to sit here and keep blocking, like all game. Still not that worried about our own life total. I'm still taking this for now. But yeah, when you're not under pressure, Pack Song Pup is going to be really good because it's just going to slowly and surely get bigger and bigger. So if we attack all, what are their best blocks? I guess we got to figure out what they tap first. Tap the Phantom. We attack all. What are the best blocks? They can kill Graphkeeper without even losing a creature, and then they can kill Cathar by double blocking, and we kill the pup. We hit for 4. Graphkeeper would come back from the grave, and it would be bigger and flying, and be a big enough flyer to just kill Bird Admirer if they block with it. And just attack all. So they are going to kill the Cathar, and that's it. Okay, cool. So we're getting a lot of damage in here then. Really nice. They're down to 7 here. Get that Gutter Skulker down. And that is going to be what they tap down with the Gavany Trapper now. So we're guaranteed to get 2 flying damage in every turn. Because we can attack with both of the flyers into the 1 reach creature. Although if they just pass the turn without casting anything, that reach creature will be a 3/5, and then we don't attack in nearly as well. Alright, they cast a spell, so Bird Admirer just going to be a 1/4 blocker. So I think we're on the just attack with a couple flyers game now. Chip them down, slowly but surely. If they tap one of the flyers, we'll just attack with Gutter Skulker instead. Unfortunately, we don't have anything we can cast here now, which is a big deal. Because if that Bird Admirer flips, that's really bad. Alright, so they just tap down one of the flyers. Alright, then I'll hit for 4. Seems awesome. I was considering maybe sending in an attack with Morning Patrol to get it to die so we could bring it from the grave and have another flyer out. And tap something down when we play it. The problem with that is, because they didn't tap Gutter Skulker, I feel like there's no argument to not just attack alone. Because Gutter Skulker is only unblockable if it's attacking alone. So, had they tapped down Gutter Skulker, I might have sent that in for a chump attack. Oh, this is an easy Syncopate, because that's going to gain them a bunch of life. Alright, and there's the concession from our opponent, because they do not have the mana up to tap down the Gutter Skulker again. Here we are now in round 3. We're 2-0 so far. Pretty great hand, definite keep. Probably going to start with the Drog Skull Infantry to get aggressive. I guess it depends what they play here. Thermo Alchemist? Yeah. Infantry only attacks as a 2-2, so it doesn't really get in against an 0-3. So maybe we just draw discard here, try to set up our future plays. Could even discard the Infantry if we want to attach that to something else. Then Sifters is a 2-3, which still doesn't get in anyway. Probably just discarding a land here. Yeah, if we hit a 5th land, we're just going to discard a land. And now we can just sacrifice the Shipwreck Sifters to Stitched Assistant. Since it's not going to be big enough to matter too much, and Stitched Assistant is going to be, it's going to be 3 power to attack into the 3 toughness creature. So this is a really interesting deck from our opponent. They play 2 cards that benefit heavily from casting instants and sorceries, but they're red-green. It could be get some Geist Flame Reservoir value going on here. Whenever they cast an instant or sorcery, they put a charge counter on the reservoir. They can remove any number of charge counters from it to deal that much damage to any target. Otherwise, later in the game, for 2 mana, they can tap it, exile the top card of the library, and they can cast it this turn. Well, they can play it this turn, so even if it's a land, they can draw it off the top with that. So, We can go ahead and Fear of Death the Ridge Wolf so that we can get attacking in with Assistant here, and we can also still play Infantry if we do that. Definitely like that. They get a chump block out of the Ridge Wolf, but that's about it. We unfortunately milled the nice Spirit Rare that we have. I don't think we've milled one of our Disturb cards yet, unfortunately. The self-mill has not been ideal thus far. Ballista Watcher, that's a big threat. And it has a good activated ability as well, so we are going to want to exile that with our Sigarda's Imprisonment to deal with it permanently. So I think I'm going to imprison it right now, and then we'll exile it next turn. Imprison it right now so we can get our attacks in again. Get this Stitched Assistant to deal some damage to them. Infantry just gets blocked by the O3 though, but this maybe sneaks in some damage that way if they were planning on chump blocking with the Alchemist for some reason. Augur of Autumn with the 1-up to pay for Syncopate. Nothing we can do about that then. And they draw the card off the Augur immediately. The land off the top. Very nice. We don't have to worry about Ballista Watcher's ability till it's nighttime, but the problem is next turn they could just play another land off the top, have 6 mana, and just pass turn, and then let it go to night. So I feel like I have to just spend the turn exiling that Watcher here. I really do. It's not ideal. Not ideal to be playing the long game when your opponent's got multiple card draw engines out, Augur of Autumn and Geist Flame Reservoir. I suppose I could just play Morning Patrol instead and hold up a Syncopate. They probably won't just pass through their turn, and if they do, all they're doing is killing infantry anyway. I mean, all they can kill is our Drogskull infantry, and if that dies, we can just cast it from our grave. The backside of this, it's 3 mana to do damage to any target. They can repeatedly do it, though, that's the problem. Is now they can kill 2 toughness stuff, and then maybe 3 toughness stuff later. So there's a Spore Crawler, no Syncopate because they have 2 mana up. It's going to be the saddest game for our Syncopate. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that Watcher this turn. Pretty sure. Assistant now trades into Spore Crawler, and they draw a card off that. Opponent is definitely living the value dream here. Augur of Autumn, Geist Flame Reservoir, Spore Crawler. Just drowning in card advantage here. They're even going to Wolf Strike here to go ahead and kill Stitched Assistant. Could go ahead and just Syncopate that, but I also don't care that much if our 3-2 dies, do I? Yeah, it's going to be really hard to Syncopate stuff later, so I think I will still Syncopate this. We already saw last turn Syncopate being an issue because they keep wanting to cast things, and then they keep casting cheap things when they have like 6 mana out. They've just kind of like by default been playing around Syncopate in that way. So next turn we're going to catch up in terms of all the card draw chicanery our opponent's doing. They even have Coven here, so they just drew 2 more off Augur of Autumn. Well, at that rate, it's starting to look like Augur of Autumn just takes this because they've now drawn 3 or 4 cards off of it. That's almost like an insurmountable amount of card advantage when they're all creatures. But we'll stay in it for now, because we do come right back in with the inspired idea to draw 3 cards of our own. But yeah, the fact that Augur of Autumn's reached Coven now is pretty horrifying. Yeah, I mean, we can keep doing our general game plan of spitting out a bunch more Disturb creatures and trying to put a lot on this board, but the problem is our opponent can just spit more and more and more out from Augur of Autumn and Geist Flame Reservoir in conjunction. So we gotta draw like a top deck champion this game. Well, put a bunch of Disturb stuff in the grave, that's pretty interesting. That was our best self-mill yet, by a lot. And we do have the Graph Keeper in hand to legitimately make that a pretty interesting prospect there. They are down to 14, but they have so many blockers here, but Can tap some stuff down for sure. Trade into the Spore Crawler here and get a Disturb card in our grave, or just do this and get a Disturb card in our grave. See if they have a combat trick in there too. They do have a Burn the Accursed. It is super bad because it exiles too. Puts the Geist Flame Reservoir to 2 counters now as well. Our Disturb effects are all sorcery speed, so we can't tap their stuff down on attacks. So we just play... bunch of blockers. Look at all this Disturb stuff. We have so many cards, but it just might not matter. That's so many beefy attackers and we're at 8. I guess we can slap Gutter Skulker's ability onto a 3/2. That's the biggest creature we could do it to, and then give it a lifelink as well. We have an unblockable 3 damage lifelinker to try to do some stuff here. But for now, we still just need more power to block with. And I'd like to hold up Alchemist Retrieval as well. That'd be 2 mana to hold up. So I have 3 mana to play around with. I think 3 mana we just go Scab Wrangler. Hold up Retrieval. Although we could still hold up a Retrieval for 1 on our own card after a block, because they don't have a lot of trample. It actually seems fine to me too. I'm going to do that. They actually they don't have to attack in super hard because they have Thermo Alchemist too, shredding our life. But we are going to go for the unblockable lifelink combo here. Going to combat. Better to tap a creature down with Scab Wrangler, but that taps down 3 of our blockers, or just hold them all up. I mean, we can tap down the Scab Wrangler and our 1 power blockers, I guess. Might be fine, but I feel like I just need as much power as I can up to try to just take trades here. Because we have such resilient cards on the board. Trade into everything they have here. They're going to shoot the Scab Wrangler pre-comment. Well, I'll just pick it up. This deck is insane from our opponent. Still have a clear shot in hand here. After all this they've dumped out. But I guess that's because Augur Bottom just hits the creatures and lands, so that's why they've just been boop, 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 boop. They've just cast everything off top of their deck except the instants, which all get stuck into the hand there. So it's really just Augur popping off. And get trampled for... We're gonna get trampled for an amount here. That's for sure. They don't have the mana to buff, so we're actually just gonna get trampled for 1. Now we get trampled for 0, but then I lose both creatures. That's probably not worth it. Trampled for 1, take 3, we're down to 4. Down to 4, I don't have any creatures out anymore because they've just killed so much of our stuff, so we can't attack back with any lifelink. But we can gain life off Luminous Phantom's ability if it doesn't die here. So it might be better to trade with it next turn, or chump block with it next turn. Yeah, the Gutter Skulker lifelink plan got completely ruined by the amount of removal that happened there. Geist Flame Reservoir plus Clear Shot going for some kills. So this can only block flyers, right? Yeah, it can only block flyers, so definitely not that. But we go Morning Patrol, Scab Wrangler, Jacob Hawken here. So we gain life each time we play things. Scab Wrangler just dies to Geist Flame Reservoir again because they had another instant in hand, so it has a charge counter again. So Scab Wrangler is actually just kind of worthless here. Even the Morning Patrol is just going to put a 2/1 out, and that's a 1/1. So our opponent's just going to have millions of options for what they want to shoot for 1 damage. So yeah, I mean, I guess just shove it all out. They get to kill one of them. Just shove it all out. And as they kill our stuff, we're going to be gaining life at least, I guess. But we don't have enough creatures to afford to tap something down with Scab Wrangler. So we could tap all these to tap that down, but then we have 1 chump blocker to chump there and take 2. And we really don't want to chump with Jacob. So I don't think... that we're using Scab Wrangler. Kill the Scab Wrangler here. Whichever 2-1 they don't kill, I'm just going to trade into the Spore Crawler now. See if Jacob Hawken gets us something absolutely insane off the top, but it seems unlikely. It's just not worth the flip here. Harlan as well from our opponent. Well,
fight for humans and werewolves alike.
Dualcraft Trainer in hand. 1 creature in our grave, but it can only block flyers. I believe we're dead no matter what. We can play this. That's as many blockers as we can have. We can have 2 blockers. Block, block. Take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we're very dead. Unless there's some miracle bomb on top of our deck. But I don't think there is. It is a bomb, but it's not a very fast one. It doesn't do anything until it trains up. So it's not going to work for us. So that's going to be game. Just an absolute beating there. Really showing off the power of Augur of Autumn. But the deck from our opponent generally just being quite good as well. Just really efficient, high power, high toughness creatures from the green-red deck. But the Augur of Autumn being able to dump a lot of them out really quickly to keep pace with us. Even with all that disturb value we got, the thing about the disturb decks is because they're self-built to have so much value like that, all of the creatures tend to be really small so that in the matchups against other decks, they can try to just make bigger stuff than you like our opponent did there. So the issue there wasn't really that our opponent's stuff was bigger than us, it was that it was bigger than us and they managed to keep pace with the amount of card draw they managed to get off of cards like the Augur and just little value from Geistslave Reservoir and stuff, being able to kill multiple of our creatures off the 1 card. So the fact that our opponent managed to keep up in terms of the card advantage war was really impressive there, and certainly what dunked us. Alright, we're on the play. We really need that blue mana. It's going to have to be a mulligan again. And another great hand. Another hand that really, again, just gets us out of our mulligan predicament. We just immediately draw planes with Ambitious Farmhand. It's like we never mulliganed. We draw more cards off Organ Hoarder and Inspired Idea here. Loving it. Drawn to a Lantern Bearer as well. Gonna take a little while to train this Savior of Allenbach, because we won't have a 3-power creature out till turn 4, so we won't have anything to train it up with. Do we even want to just Lantern Bearer instead here then? I don't think so. I think we still want to play the Savior. It's just gonna be a little awkward for now. Griff Rider from our opponent, so they've got a flyer. We get a Lantern Bearer down, and that's not that big of a deal, although it does have training, so if they start attacking with a 3-power creature alongside it, will be a bigger issue. Do I want to take that in the sky for now? I think I do, because I really want to get a creature on the board that's big enough to train our Savior. Gavany, Silversmith, a counter on both, so they have a 3-2 flyer, and a 3-3 Timberland Guide, and a 3-4 Silversmith. Trade with Organ Hoarder on the block here, but then I can't trade the Savior anymore. Although if I train the Savior and exile the Silversmith on an attack here, and then they kill the Savior, then they get the Silversmith back and get the Enter the Battlefield effect again, that would be really bad for us. I'm just going to cross my fingers. Hope for the best on it, though. Probably Dualcraft Trainer Lantern Bearer here. Dualcraft Trainer blocks Timberland Guide single-handedly. Yeah, maybe I don't actually push in for the attack here. So if I push in for the attack, exile the Silversmith, and they just like Wolf Strike or something, then all of a sudden the Timberland Guide's a 4/4, the Griff Rider's a 4/3. We don't have good blocks with Dual Craft Trainer Lantern Bearer anymore. What's the big question here? Do we attack or do we not attack? I think I'm going to still, though, because I feel like that's the only removal I can think of that makes it bad, is if it's a green fight spell. Any of their white removal should just, like, pacify it at this point, which it'll stay on the board for. Alright, nice. The Savior remains for now. They have 2 mana up for the destroy target attacking creature, so no way I'm sending that in now. We have Coven now, which is really nice. Attack with a double strike and 3/3 lifelinker here. That seems pretty spicy to me. Probably our best attack. They don't have a great block for this. They block with the 1/4 and the 3/2. I kill them both. And it survives. They block with literally everybody, and then they can kill it, but I kill 2 of their creatures. We're down to 8 here. We can go ahead and just draw 3. Yep, our maximum hand size is reduced to 4, but we'll only have 4 in hand, so that's perfectly fine. Now we've got all these backups for later. Wolfkin Outcast. Big dork on the ground. Shipwreck Sifters. We could Shipwreck Sifters for Gutter Skulker to slap Gutter Skulker onto the Seasoned Cathar, and they just can't block at all. They don't die immediately, but they die really soon. If I had enough mana to do that and Stitched Assistant to sack the bearer to give +1/+1 to Cathar, I could kill them this turn. But I still get more than close enough. I think this seems excellent to me. They are down to 2. Which means basically no matter what happens, lethal next turn. And there's the concession from our opponent. Round 5 now, 3-1, another banger curve. Although our 1-drop has no power. Certainly looking to draw some big cards for later in the game, but that is what Inspired ID is going to help us with. Let's send a message. Get in there. So black-red from our opponent with a Blood Fountain, turn 1, Evolving Wilds, turn 2 to pull out the mountain. And a Jaren Corrupted Bishop, turn 3. Oh dear. 3 mana for a 2/3 and a 1/1. And whenever a human they control dies, they get another 1/1. They can give them lifelink for 2 mana, and if they ever have exactly 13 life, they basically win. They get a 6/6 flying trample lifelink that can sack creatures to draw cards. That's terrifying. That is an absolute monster right there. Just send in the infantry and pass turn. Alright, well. Nom nom nom. Devour a Jaren. They do have the Blood Fountain, so they can get it back later, but that's going to deal with it for plenty time for now. That Blood Hypnotist can't block, so we get to just keep getting in here. We can play Graphkeeper and hold up Syncopate. Syncopate for 1, but still something. See if we get a chump block on that 1/1 yet. Nope, another hit for 3. Do we mill any Disturb cards off the Graphkeeper? We do. We get a Morning Patrol. Very nice. So if we can syncopate something for 1, we will. If we can't, we'll tap down their 1/1. I will take this 3 damage all day. Certainly fine with racing our opponent. And they still only have 1 creature in their grave, so if they want a Blood Fountain back Jaren to their hand, they are missing some value to do it. Alright, pass turn, so tap that 1/1. And we'll go and attack in here now that everybody's tapped. Play our mana first in case we need to do a really big syncopate to stop something. Burn the Accursed. Well, we don't need to do that big of a syncopate, and I will stop that. So we can syncopate and still have the mana up to draw 3 here, which is great. And we don't need to hold up Gavany Trapper mana, because we can just tap down a creature when we cast Morning Patrol from our grave next turn. Wow, and we do straight gas all creatures. Alright, we are tapped down now, so this removal spell does resolve, but it gives us another Disturb card in our grave. Our opponent's still trying to race. We will allow it down to 11. There's a Vampire Interloper, can't block, but it does put some more aggression out, and they play their last land here. So now is where we're going to really give them a bad time, because we're about to play a million blockers. So we have 5 mana here. I would love to draw a 6th mana, so I think I'm going to go Shipwreck Sifters, discarding probably Savior even, maybe. If I don't hit the mana, what do I do? Then I play a Lunarch Veteran and a Fear of Death as well. Fear of Death basically makes Interloper completely useless. Yeah, I like Shipwreck Sifters here. We do hit a Lantern Bearer, so it's not a land, but now we can go Lantern Bearer and Lunarch Veteran this turn. Pretty phenomenal. Although then our Shipwreck Sifters is just a 1/2, but that's fine. It still gets a chump block off really well. And with Graphkeeper, we're going to have these cards in grave to tap down if they hold back to block, but 2 of their creatures can't block anyway. I think we get rid of the Savior. Savior's just too slow for this situation, this position here. So they're down to 9. They only have 1 creature that can block. They can Blood Fountain to get Jaren back, and then if whenever they do have the mana to recast Jaren, that'll be 2 blockers that turn. So they did shut off our Flyer's ability to block, so we can't trade into the Interloper here, unfortunately. I am just going to take 5. Down to 7, which is painful. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 7 if we slap an infantry onto somebody, so if it isn't instant speed interaction in their hand, we win on the spot. Do we go for it? They have 1 card, they just drew it off of blood. Has to be instant speed interaction. These creatures can't block anyway, so it doesn't mean anything that they attacked with them. I think we do go for it. We slap it on the highest toughness creature. So that's the most likely to survive. Oh, we don't win on the spot. How does one math? How does one math? That is the question. Well, we don't die on the spot either. We definitely win next turn. Alright. Down to 5. Okay. That was some embarrassing math, but I mean, we get there here. They have 3 blockers, we tap 1 down. We already killed them in the sky. So we probably just attack in the sky so they can't get any lifelink off of their blocks. Alright. Because they do have the 4 mana to give both of the 1/1 humans lifelink and chump block with them, so that put them at essentially 3. So if I attacked on the ground, they block there, gain 2. So they're at basically 3, and they take 1 from Lunarch Veteran, 1 from Lantern Bearer, survive with 1 life. That was some stonks kind of math there. That was I don't know where that number came from. I don't know why I thought I had lethal, but still does work out for us in the end, luckily. Here we are now, round 6, 4, and 1, and we have Drogskull Infantry into Savior of Allenbach. That'll be an exceptional combo if the infantry is still around by the time we attack with the Savior, because then we just get a training trigger off of it the first time it attacks. That would be awesome. Traveling Minister will start things from our opponent. We're just going to attack right into that and take that trade if it's allowed. Looks like it is not allowed. They don't want to trade. And they are black-white, which can make great use of the life gain for some synergies there. So I will also offer the trade into the Ecstatic Awakener. Alright, nothing there. Here's the Gavany Trapper. Maybe we should have just held Lunarch Veteran back. Definitely supposed to attack with infantry there for 2 damage, but Lunarch Veteran, we could hold it back and we could block the Awakener if they attack in. The problem with that is if they attack in and then we block it with a 1/1, then they would just go ahead and sack the Minister, make it a 5/4, and draw a card. Morbid Opportunist. This is really bad. Morbid Opportunist is one of the best cards in Midnight Hunt, and it combos especially well with Ecstatic Awakener. They're going to draw 2 there, and we are still stuck on 2 mana. As good as this hand looks, it is looking like it's starting to get away from us a little bit here. Really good synergies from our opponent on curve. I don't think they have great attacks here. I mean, yeah, they do, because they can just sack Minister, draw 2 cards, and have a 5/4 out. But we get to make them dump all their mana into that here, so at least they're not committing additional cards to the board. They're just making one of their cards on board better. Kind of have to accept they have a Morbid Opportunist. We don't have removal for it. Just have to accept they're going to have a million cards in hand at all points. To hold up Gavany Trapper to tap down Awoken Demon here, we probably tap Jacob Hawken right now to see if we can hit a land. Exile one of our 4 drops from hand. It's just too expensive. This is looking really bad now. Don't think we're going to need to draw cards because we're going to have plenty of stuff that costs less than 4. So I'm going to get rid of Organ Hoarder. By the time we hit 4 mana, we'll probably have just cast all this nonsense. Alchemist Retrieval to bounce the Awakener doesn't seem that bad because it does slow them down. They can draw a lot more cards off of it again, but we'll see. Really bold block from our opponent. That's unfortunate. I was bluffing Cradle of Safety there. If I were my opponent, I would never put Opportunist in at risk for that. Actually, that's a total lie. I probably would. I'd be like, yeah, prove it. Prove it. You have nothing. But I did that because there's no reason to hold back for the block anyway, because I am just going to go for the bounce here now. My apologies about the phone notifications. I'm going to mute that right now. My phone is popping off. Nobody's business. I'm gonna Piercing Light my Trapper. Okay. Draw a card here. Yeah, it's a great deal. Actually, yeah, they scry 1, draw a card, and get the Trapper off the board. That is a very good deal. Alright, well, we have the 3rd mana now. We have a Search Party Captain and a Siege Zombie as the plays now. Interesting. You just play a 2/3 then. They're not going to have great attacks. We're still at 21 here. So maybe just slowing them down here is going to do something for us. Soul Guide Griff. Exile that Lunarch Veteran. Seems good. Play our Brine Comer next turn so we can jump block that flyer 1 turn. I mean, maybe if we can just Jacob Hawken and just repeatedly hit lands here, like maybe we get there. Savior's really hard to cast and we're not going to be in a position to attack for a long time. So we'll exile that one. But if we can hit a land like every single turn, maybe. Ooh, now we have Imprisonment for the Griff. Do we want to imprison the Griff or just drop a Brine Comer? Like no confirmation when I'm going to have the mana to play Dual Craft Trainer, but it's so much of a better blocker than like Scab Wrangler. We're not going to have a ton of tokens out. I feel like Graph Keeper is going to be better than Scab Wrangler too. Just because we could bring it back later. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of the Scab Wrangler. I think I want to save Imprisonment for now and just get a chump block this turn. Although all the bombs in black-white that I can think of, they're just the most memorable bombs, so of course they're going to be absolutely absurd, but I'm just thinking of like Dreadfeast Demon and stuff, where Cigar's Imprisonment doesn't really do anything for us anyway there. Uh-oh, a flipped Catapult Fodder for Catapult Captain, so they can... I might just take 3 here. they could throw all their creatures at us by sacrificing them. So they don't even have to get in. There's an Awakener. Well, the 16 land build is catching up to us, that's for sure. Our mana was pretty excellent like every other game, so we gotta stack it all into this one. I don't know what to do here. Probably Graphkeeper. We play Dual Craft Trainer. No, we're imprisoning this turn. We are imprisoning this turn. Buffing Spirits is going to be big with Patrician Geist, so I guess we're getting rid of Graphkeeper. But now Catapult Captain has a real easy target to go ahead and sacrifice. Alright, crack to the Ecstatic Awakener instead. Draw the card and flip it up. Crawl from the cellar. Opponent is still drowning in card draw from the Opportunist and Awakener. They have a trick here too, so I think that would make a lot of sense to me here. I guess we'll see. This is not going to be great for us. Alright, no trick. Candlegrove Witch. We have the 5th mana. We're just going to need to draw one more from Jacob to flip Jacob, so if we can survive to that point, it should be wild. We can cast 2 cards this turn if we cast Patrician Geist and Brine Comer's ability. That will buff our spirits. I think my spirits could use a good buff. I don't even know what I'm supposed to target with this. I'm just trying to get the 1/1/1 out of it, so I don't think it really matters. I don't think any of these creatures are super likely to be long for this world, so whatever we enchant is probably just going to die anyway, so I'll just put it on the token. I'm definitely not going to put it on Jacob, because whenever Jacob flips, Jacob's just going to get rid of it by himself. Soul Guide Griff. Is that another one? Oh, they brought it back with Crawl from the Cellar. Exile our Morning Patrol. Pretty good against us. Ooh, we get to trade one of our tokens off. That's nice. We are slowly but surely losing to a Siege Zombie now, though. On top of the Morbid Opportunist. 6th mana, let's go! That is not the 6th mana. Which would I rather play first? Maybe the Lantern Bearer because it works so well with Patrician Geist. But looks like we're not doing that because we're going to flip Jacob. Getting rid of the land because I'm just going to cast Lantern Bearer from hand at a later time, and I can only cast 1 card of Jacob's each turn. So what do we do here? We need to gain a ton of life or we're still going to be out of this, but we don't have a way to gain life, so we just play our best blocker, Dual Craft Trainer first. I think Siege Zombie Catapult Captain still gets us out of this, but it's surprising we did make it to flipping Hawkins Insight. But I suppose Black-White is a really grindy color pair in this format. A lot of incremental damage and life gain and just a ton of removal. Surprisingly enough, now that we've flipped a Hawkins Insight, we've drawn pretty much as our opponent has off this Opportunist. Just off Jacob. Not quite as much. We've got 18 left, they have 16 left. That's close. Oh, they're just getting in here. They think that Hawkins Insight would be, if the game goes long, just like an inevitable win con, which is fair enough. So we have to take a big hit here, don't we? We take 6 if I block like this, but then we get to keep multiple creatures at least. Taking 6 is really painful, especially when they have a Catapult Captain on the board. So I really would rather not. Stop more damage if I block there. And then I still keep just as many creatures. I take 5 instead of 6. 5 to 6 is a very tiny difference. I guess I'm just going to take a big old smack and probably just die to Siege Zombie Catapult Captain stuff. I'd love to kill Catapult Captain, but that 6 toughness is like we have to stack so much onto it that we're just going to go down to like 2 life if I try to kill Catapult Captain. I guess I could throw these 2 on it. Throw these 2 on it. We take 4, 5, 6, 7 down to 5. We don't lose either of them actually if we do that. Taking 7's a lot here, but if there's no Catapult Captain anymore, it's kind of a big deal. Oh, cool. So we just lose. Fair enough. Yeah, that card kind of single-handedly blanks any potential blocks we go for there then. Here we are in round 7 on the play again with an excellent opener. Lantern Bear, Shipwreck Sifters, Brine Comber, Jacob Hawken too. Really nasty stuff here. So round 7, 4-2 no matter what happens. Pretty great record so far. A little bit above average. But hopefully we can win this game, because this game is the game that will determine whether or not we get all of our gyms back. We get the 1500 for getting 5 wins. I don't really think I'll need the 4th mana. I'd like to just cast a Brine Comber. Yeah, Jacob Hawken, once we have 6 mana, is going to be pretty big. Sure, we'll keep the mana, get a counter on Sifters. Just get that Brine Comber in the grave for now. Cool. Cool. Cool stuff. Nice stuff. Oh, wow. Absolutely disgusting. We just made our opponent the happiest player on Arena right now. That's insane. But we could just jam out some 2/3s that this Mind Leech Ghoul can't block. Steelclad Spirit, that's going to get tapped down by this Trapper for sure. I'm going to play land for turn, because ideally I can just hit lands every turn with Jacob. Exile anything that isn't a land, because if they can't kill Jacob by the time he flips, we get to cast everything that we've exiled anyway. Steelclad Spirit can get in if they want. That's fine by me. Definitely winning this race. And now I don't have to tap it down. I'm definitely drawing discarding, because Fear of Death does very little for us right now. Scar's Imprisonment does more, so we'll keep that one. But we're still not casting that, I think. Not yet. Front Reunion for another Decayed Zombie. Past turn, we tap down the 3/3 blocker to get the 2/3s in again. Stitched Assistant is the draw. Nothing I really want to sacrifice here. So let's draw a discard, maybe discard Stitched Assistant for a land. Lunarch Veteran? Well, these two together are really nice, but I still want to hold Imprisonment for a potential bomb from our opponent. I think I'm actually going to get rid of Assistant so I can hold up to Gavony Trapper mana and still play a creature this turn. Combat trick here, or the chump block. Chump block it is. They are down to 7. And here's Lunarch Veteran. Tap down the Steelclad Spirit in the end step again. Overcharged Amalgam. Counter the activated ability. Alright, we hit a land, we win. We do hit a land. Imprison the big one. Tap down the smaller one. Actually 1 damage off again. Still worth it though. Okay, not worth attacking with Jacob Hawken. I got moderately overexcited there. Edgar's Awakening on the Mind Leech School. Sack the pacified creature. They only have 2 blockers here. And there's the concession from our opponent. That is going to be the 5th win. That is a guaranteed 1,500 gems back out of the event. Very nice. But see if we can't get a little gravy on top of the potatoes here. Round 8 here. Unfortunately, this is going to have to be a mulligan. Not only do we not have white mana, every card in the hand is white, including our double white cards. This is just a really rough hand mana-wise. This is better, but still pretty bad. I think I'm going to keep Cradle to go with Savior if we can hit that second white source. But this hand is very sketchy. The only thing that we know is going for us is a turn 2 Scab Wrangler, which is not the kind of card that's particularly great on its own. You hit a Lunarch Veteran at least, so we've got something else on the board. Opponent starts with Lantern Bearer, another blue-white Disturb deck here, into Baithook Angler. Excellent 2-drop common. We'd love to have seen some of those in our draft. But we did not. That one comes back as a 1-2 flyer. Ours comes back as a 1-1 flyer. I think we're just going for defensive blocks here. We just have less power. Ooh, Gavony Dawnguard from our opponent on 3 as well, so they can be drawing cards as day flips to night and night flips to day, and unfortunately that's just going to happen here. Unless I Cradle of Safety for no value, I have to let them just get a flip off here because we do not have the second white source for the Savior. Savior's actually been a bit of a burden to our deck. We've had a game where we had it out and it never even really got to accomplish anything. We did have one game where we had it out and it did a lot of work because it got to exile a card or 2 and our opponent never had removal for it. So that was a really good showing from the Savior, but we've had multiple games where it's just been stuck in our hand uncastable because of that double white cost. And we had a game where we had it out and it just didn't do anything. So all in all, it might not actually just be that good in this deck. The quote-unquote bomb mythic maybe not worth it here in this blue-white Disturb deck. Maybe an over-evaluation. Unfortunately, Gavony Dawnguard is just having a field day here. They got to flip from day to night during our turn and back from night to day here. Drawing a Brutal Cathar, a 2-for-1, excellent card. It's a creature and a removal spell all in one. It's looking like another game where the writing's on the wall. Hopefully, at least in this one, we can die quickly, unlike the other 2. If you'll notice, all of the games that we've lost here were games where our opponent just had really efficient card draw engines going on quite early in the game. Lost to that Augur of Autumn, lost to that Morbid Opportunist game, both of those. But the game took really long, but I did say early on each time we were at a pretty big disadvantage because of our opponent's ability to just dig through their deck and just keep dropping stuff on us so quickly, and this game is feeling very similarly. So we are far on the back foot already, and this is going to be that same combat trick to kill us here, +2/+1 to the whole field to really seal the deal here. Nice and quick this time, at least. Oh no, it's just a single combat trick. Okay, so we do get some trades in here. Okay, or multiple individual combat tricks. All right. It isn't just the one buff the entire field spell. But yes, save the Search Party Captain, recast it for only 1 mana to draw yet another card. Oh, I should have played Farmhand there so I could grab another Plains, but it wouldn't have let me cast another spell here because I would have just played Farmhand, played a Plains, and actually no, it would have let me cast the Veteran and the Farmhand in the same turn. Just wouldn't let me cast Savior that turn. Yeah, we could have had Farmhand Veteran out. That was the definite misplay, but there's no way we're winning this one. Their board state's already ideal. They've got a removal spell in hand, more coming later. I'm just going to go ahead and end it for the day. Scoop them up here. So, 5-3 on the day. I think I stand by the 16-land version of the deck. Most of the games it worked out pretty well. We did get punished pretty hard in the black-white matchup in terms of a little bit of mana screw there. I got punished a little bit in that last game as well, but the biggest punishments we were having mana-wise had to do with our Savior of Olena. With no dual lands, no Evolving Wilds, and a 16-land deck, this restrictive mana cost actually did cost us quite a bit, and it's a little difficult to train in our deck. Our deck is a lot of like 1/1s and 2/2s and stuff, a lot of pretty small cards. So Savior of Olena, I think, might have been overvalued a bit. Maybe cut it for a 17th land, maybe cut it for another one of our decent non-creature cards, maybe another counterspell like a Geistlight Snare, or another Alchemist Retrieval, really any random stuff like that, maybe even a Candle Trap, or the Ceremonial Knife. Lots of options there that I think were solid additions to our deck after seeing how the Savior of Olena performed. So that's probably the biggest takeaway that I have with the deck. The Savior of Olena was not great, but pretty much everything showed up, did its job, did pretty well. Well, of the cards that showed up, I don't think we drew a Kindly Ancestor ever. We did Millet one time, but Jacob was a banger. Scab Wrangler, as I imagined, was not really good in this deck. We just never had enough creatures out to make good use of it. But Gavany Trapper did a ton of work. All of our disturbed creatures were great. Our disturbed payoffs like Graph Keeper and Shipwreck Sifters were great. Organ Hoarder was excellent. Gutter Skulker and Dual Craft Trainer were big ways to close out the game. And Inspired Idea was a great draw spell in multiple of our games. So overall, quite liked this deck. Nice to see it go 5-3 and get the gems back out of it. I think we might have been able to take this to 7 wins had I played a little better, or maybe made a different build from the start, because this deck did seem pretty excellent overall. But 5-3, certainly a pretty great record. Gonna break even there, and I'll absolutely take it. So that is going to end today's video. As always, if you enjoy these drafts or just Magic Arena in general, stick around on the channel. There will be plenty more videos in the near future. You can also catch me live on Twitch at the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. But other than that, I'd just like to thank you all again for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.